everybody. Welcome to the Man Alone Solo Role-Playing YouTube channel. Today, a little something different. I guess it could be called the solo card slash miniature board game channel. What you see before you is a collection of some both favorites and possibly favorites. Over in this pile here are games that I have, that I like, that I've played before, and I'll show you some of those, though I think a lot of them I have shown or talked about on the channel. I know that the Spire and Rangitaki, I did a video on that once that had really bad sound like 2 years ago, and then I can't remember if I ever did an Iron Helm playthrough, but either way, I'm just going to go through those. My hope is that this video will be more about kind of like checking out what's under the hood, opening up these new ones, seeing what they're all about. We have the new HeroQuest First Light, which I'm excited to talk about. And I think the game among these that I am most thrilled about is going to surprise you. But my hope is that by the end of this video, you can put something down in the comments to see which game you'd like to see me play through a little bit more, because maybe I'll make like October, I'll put a costume on my channel and say, oh, it's a board game channel. No, I don't want to do that. I mostly want to go back to my RPGs, but a little bit of a foray, a hobby infidelity, s'il vous plaît. So anyways, yeah, so let me know if you'd like to see a playthrough of any of these. Yeah, you get it. Let's just start the show. First up, something great. So before we get into the box games, card-driven crawls, it's worth starting with something smaller, the roll and write. This genre is about as simple as game design gets, but in that simplicity, there's like an elegance. You in a roll and write, you roll dice, you record the results, literally, you record the rolls over here. You try to build something the best you can out of whatever the dice give you. So that's a little bit at cross purpose with a lot of modern gaming, but there is a strategy in terms of choices you make based on those dice rolls, and those choices do narrow as you approach either victory or demise. In the simplicity of the roll and write genre, there is a lot of creativity because there are several overlapping design goals that become more apparent ideally. Not all of them like hit this perfect cross-section, but many of them do. I'm going to show you two of them. But yeah, when you're done with it, you're going to see you'll fill in these boxes, you'll tick things off, you'll record numbers, and you'll find that every line, number, mark on the page, it represents a decision that you made in a small act of control against randomness. And yes, at the end, you have something that was sort of mathematically determined, but it shows when you went left, when you could have gone right, et cetera, et cetera. It's pretty awesome. By the end of it, you can just trace exactly the adventure you've had. And I think over the last decade, I think this format has quietly shaped a lot of solo game design. Doom Realm, which was made in 2017, and it was made by Jason Glover, who does Tin Helm, Iron Helm, and a lot of other awesome games, is designed this. And this is a perfect example of a roll and write. It's like a pad of paper and a few dice. Well, it's not really a pad. It is two different adventures and the instruction sheets, but six sheets total. But it captures the feel of a full dungeon crawler. I always say when I look at Doom Realm that when I was a little kid and I was sitting there and I got sheets of paper and a pencil and I'd say, I want to make a game, and I just had no idea where to start, right? I would just, it'd end up me drawing pictures of knights or warriors or whatever it was. But I just wanted to make a game, like this is the game I wish my mind could have made. So a lot of it starts with these 4 dice that you're going to roll at the beginning. This kind of sets the, let's see here. Yeah. This is what sets the random pattern that's going to be followed the whole game, because you'll just roll 4 dice and you'll pick one of them, and each of these will be like the starting numbers on 4 lists that you will create a count for, right? So it's like I roll a 1, 3, 4, and 6. I take the 4. The 4 is the first number for treasure, so I write 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then I pull another one, 3. So I'll put the first monster as 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, and this makes it so that like each game I play, I'm encountering things in a different order. One of them as well is, let's see here. One of them goes for random encounters, and then one of them determines which of the rooms is locked, which ends up being the boss room. But there was, that makes it so that you have these random encounters for when you get enemies, treasure, these sort of random encounters, like just where you can set up camp and stuff like that. So again, it's a different thing. It's a different sequence and a different challenge each time. And the markings on your sheet become your map, because as you move, you roll dice, and then so you move, or you fill in more. Think of it like the fog of war, and you fill in like contiguous areas as you move along, and you just have to fill in however many connected pieces for the dice that you roll. And so it's pretty awesome, like for at least one playthrough of each of these, I would say the Goblins and the Sleeping Dragon and the Rise of the Troll King. And I can honestly say the only reason that I would like not play it more than once is just because there's so many options now. But if I had this game in 1991 when I was 8 years old, I think I would have played it 500 times, Now this one is $2 at pnparcade.com. Well worth it. I mean, there's just not many things that you could each of these probably take, like, for me, 45 minutes to an hour. So 2 hours of entertainment for $2. Has been a while since that conversion has happened. Now, if you want something even more elegant and what I consider to be just like art, this one is free. And this is Todd Sanders made Utopia Engine. This is the 2nd edition. And this took the same idea in a different direction. Instead of exploring a dungeon, you're rebuilding a lost artifact. You're rebuilding a machine to stave off the apocalypse using these lost artifacts, to build the Utopia engine. And so you're rolling dice to find the components, manage time, and solve a kind of alchemical puzzle. And so you might look at this first sheet and say, yeah, it looks like a bunch of little Yahtzee sheets. But when you start looking at the 2nd and 3rd recording sheets, you start being like, oh, wow, this is unbelievable. So like, here is your workshop. So you have like your encounter chart, monster charts, what attacks they do at levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You need the Seal of Balance, the Scrying Lens, the Golden Chassis, the Hermetic Mirror, the Crystal Battery, the Void Gate. And based on what you roll for a D666, 100 to 555, you get an encounter. But then different rolls, you will have less likely rolls. You'll have a chance to actually find the pieces. And then this is the actual like travel sheet. This is your tool belt. And this is like, you use these to fill in different ammo and I mean, it's just unbelievable. And this, I think, highlights another sort of final piece of the roll and write experience is that often there's like two layers going on. There is the game itself, which has a pattern, but then there's often a kind of like geometric puzzle going on as well. There's especially games where you have to fit certain things within certain spaces, right? Like think of an inventory. You have to sort of Tetris around your things. And so you have these choices which seem quite simple, but as they layer on one another, it starts to get more and more complex to the point where I don't know. I just remember playing Utopia Engine some time ago and just sitting and staring at the paper and tapping my pencil for like 20 minutes, being like, well, if I do this, and I'm like, damn it. And I'm like, what am I doing? Why, how am I so vexed by this? But it's just because it's a damn good game. So yeah, this one is free. There's a lot of free ones. Go check out pnparcade.com. It's all digital files, but they all come with like easy print options or whatever. So um, and this one's really cool. It's a little bit logic puzzle, a little bit world building. And this one, I think my impression is just because even I was aware of it at the time when I wasn't even that into solo games was it was it showed like this genre which has DNA back to Yahtzee, could also deliver a genuine narrative tension without cards, boards, or elaborate art. Aspirational art. This is the kind of art that when I look at it, again, if I was a kid, I would have been so. It would have been so great to see this because it's like this looks awesome and doesn't look out of my reach. Like it looks like I can learn how to do this. Yeah, but these two games, I think they define what I think of as the core DNA of solo design: limited components, procedural generation, and a strong feedback loop between what I roll and what I imagine. And we see that same DNA later in games that we have here, like Cartographers, Cassette Dungeons, and Iron Helm. So yeah, before we get into the bigger games, it's worth keeping that lineage in mind. Most modern solo games, no matter like how complex they look, are still sort of at heart a conversation between chance and choice and you. And so the trappings of them can grow bigger, more elegant, more complex, but at the core, this is a lot of what they are. It's that roll and write just happens to show that conversation in its purest form. So check those out. All right, so I think we should start with Iron Helm. Iron Helm is by Jason Glover, Grey Gnome Games, and this is the core box, like $65 on GameCrafter.com. Iron Chest is $30. This contains a lot of the expansions for the game. And I'll talk about Tin Helm in just a second, but Jason Glover is, I think, probably the GOAT in the solo card based genre. And right now, actually, on his website, Greynome, Grey, gnome.com, he has the full rules for Underquest, which is like his baby of a game that has been a long time coming. It looks awesome. It's just 32 pages. You could check them out. And here we see a lot of what I'd expect, and that's not a bad thing. What I mean by that is this is like each iteration of a game, he takes his core design principles and really advances them, brings them to like their more of their fullness. And so I think that this just looks fantastic. I'm already seeing a lot of things in Iron Helm that are sort of enhanced here, made even better, and a lot more options and experiences. So definitely one to keep an eye on. And yeah, I don't know, you can't really play with the rule book for a card-based game unless you sit there and scribble all the cards. But the most important thing that you notice is that one of the familiars you can get is a rooster. So I mean, it's like I don't really see how the game could be not good. It's just a question here of if it's good or great. Okay, so Iron Helm is you take on the role of this like grizzled veteran adventurer making one last descent into the dungeon of the blackened mountains in hopes for G&G, golden glory. Each level of the dungeon in the base set, I think there's 4 or 5, is resolved in 8 turns, and on each turn you're going to draw 2 dungeon cards, which are really cool. They just look like doors, and you reveal one of them. And you could either resolve it or discard it and take the second card. But if you take the second card, you have to do the second card. And each of them are what you probably expect, like encounters, events, traps, loot, some other effect. There's 4 primary character attributes that you have to balance, and I know it looks a little messy just because I have it in different bags here, but you have tokens for these different things, for health, energy, encumbrance, rations, and of course your rations. You will not, if you're anything like me, if your brain is even 1% similar to mine, you will not be able to see these without going Hershey's bars. So yeah, health reduced to 0, you die. Energy, use it for attacks, drop into 0, does not cause an immediate loss of the game. It's just you kind of have no options. Encumbrance, rations, you have to consume a ration at the end of each level, and if you fail to do so, you lose health. And so it's a risk reward type game. It's a push your luck type game. You buy gear before entering in the dungeon. You get new skills, manage loot cards, potions, poison, blessings. The dungeon deck itself is finite, and you trigger the boss when you have enough plot cards that show up. And so I think there's 18 dungeon cards, but it works because those are just sort of the system, the outer shell by which you manage your encounters in the game. And I really, really love just these cards are like, they just have a door on the back of them. And so it just feels right. It feels like a good and proper dungeon crawling experience here. I could, of course, be using the dividers that I have. But yeah, you can get the Iron Chest for $30. It's a pretty good expansion that brings some new stuff to the game, like the Lonely Troll Inn. You get, what is this? Adding this pack to the game will allow you to hire henchmen from the inn. And then you have Beasts and Burdens, which gives you like an advanced difficulty mode. There's other ones that allow you to change the environments of each of the dungeon levels. But even without that, I would say, especially because I know $65 is a little bit of a sticker shock. It really shouldn't be, because if we think, yesterday I saw the core book for the Final Fantasy RPG for $70, I think, and I was like, I would get that purely out of nostalgia. I would then remember that I only liked Final Fantasy 3 and 7, and maybe a little of 8, and then I would never play it. But these are the doors, and it's cool to just feel like you're dungeon crawling, right? You have these 2 doors out, you have to pick one of them, you flip it, and here it's like, okay, a skirmish. So you have some options, and you can be ambushed or you're ready to go. And so I think that even so, like, this together would be $95 when it's available from gamecrafter.com. If that's a little much for you, get Tin Helm. Tin Helm is a fraction of that cost, and it's obviously less, but it's still surprising on how well it does with such a smaller kind of iteration of the game, because the core loop of Iron Helm and the feel of the game, you're going to get that from Tin Helm. And yes, like, the dungeons are not going to be as complex. Your character abilities aren't going to be that as like varied and stuff like that. But you have your rations, you have energy, you have health. I mean, it's the same stuff. You'll be able to pick it up and start playing it pretty fast. And you'll also have choices of different characters. What I read a very fascinating article one time just about the development of this, and how different like design decisions had to be made to fit it into here. And one of them that was really interesting was, you have things on both sides of these cards, and you'll have like the player card, and then the gnome has a specific loadout, like starting package or whatever. And so the idea was that like the gnome, whatever the gnome started with, that had to be a card back that meant that during that playthrough, like the human could not show up. And so these kind of design decisions had to be made where it's like we can't have two-sided cards where you need both sides of the cards if one of the sides has to be up the whole time, et cetera, et cetera. Point is, if you play Tin Helm and you like it and say, yum, yum, I want some more, you're going to like Iron Helm. You can feel good about getting Iron Helm. If you don't like Tin Helm, then there's nothing that happens in Iron Helm that's going to, transmute the experience to a higher transcendent level. It's just more of that and larger. So these are, to me, like this was one of the first solo non like RPG solo games that I truly lusted after. I'm very satisfied with my purchase. If you were to say that all of this together cost me $125, well worth it. Well worth it, because $125, what is that now? Unfortunately, six movies. I've had so much. I must have played. I've probably played Tin Helm 3 or 4 times. I played Iron Helm about 10 or 11 times. I mean, you tell me. Help me, help you. Help me, help. There's about a couple different win conditions here. You could like survive, gold collection, items acquired. What's it called? Morality. Yeah, morality tracking. The goal is a successful retirement, one way or another. So that's Iron Helm. I think maybe we'll do Iron Helm, Unbroken, and then Cassette Dungeons I haven't played as much. So let's do Unbroken next. All right. So with Unbroken, I want to focus on the game, but I do have to tell you a little bit about this game's release, just because it's such a saga in and of itself. It truly was. This game is really about like you're a survivor of a disastrous expedition, and in a lot of ways, like the game was a metaphor for its release. And I just want to say up front, this game was made by Artem Safarov, and Artem has next to nothing to do with what happened with this game. But he was essentially an indie designer trying to make a game, had a young family, and then this Golden Bell Studios was like, "Hey, this looks really great. We'd like to help with production of it." So they had this Kickstarter. I think the original goal was like $10,000 to $15,000. It raised 595, I think. Yeah, like close to $600,000. All right, and then just as soon as the distribution was about to start, where they're going to start printing it, the factory was like, "Hey, we're closed because the factory that was printing it was in China. There's this virus here. We can't do anything." And people really didn't. I think it was very early in like the whole COVID sequence, and then they found somewhere else to do it, but then the shipping of it, and there is, I think, in 2022, there was a review. I remember it wasn't actually a review. It was a guy being, I think it was Thoughtful Gamer, was like, I have a review copy of Unbroken, but I cannot do a review of this game in good conscience because nobody can get it. So like, what am I reviewing it for? Like, who am I reviewing it for? Um, but people even then, like 2 or 3 years later, still had not gotten their Kickstarter thing. And I think even more impressive than like the $590,000 raised was that, and you could see this, you can go on the Kickstarter, there were 26,000 comments on that Kickstarter. 26,000 comments. Sometimes I'll log on to YouTube and it'll say 9+ like notifications, and I'll be like, more than 9. Oh, here we go. I love your comments, etc. But it's, gotta take the time to do it. And so it was like, to think about logging on to Kickstarter and seeing 26,000, I'd be like, oh dear God, I would want to crawl into a hole. But Artem did not. And in fact, I just backed a game recently that he did, and I think you could even do a late pledge on it. Let me check that out. Yeah, so you can late pledge Shred of Redemption, which actually looks really cool. You're like this medieval noble who has just been kind of a miser and a terrible person, and it's like the end of your life, and you're trying to just do something to redeem yourself, which I really like because it has echoes of Darkest Dungeon and Pilgrim. But yeah, so I didn't back it. The backing is done for it, but you can like do a pre-order for it for $30 and shipping. But yeah, this the Unbroken Kickstarter is still up, and you can see like even as I was like bringing up this screen here, I was reading through some of the comments, and man, it's so foreboding. Like if you go back to 7 years ago, people would be like, I don't know. I don't really like the fact that this Golden Bell Studios is involved. Like, I've had a poor experience with them, and it just like seeing things fall apart. My gosh, I feel so bad. But yeah, $26,441, and then or comments, and then for the well, actually, hold on a second. See on the bottom there, that's Canadian dollars. So let me do the conversion here for how much US dollars that would be. So a little bit less, but still very impressive here. $426,000. Yeah, an estimated delivery April 2018. And some people did not get it till like 2022. Man. Anyways, check out his new game. So let me just say this about Unbroken though. So this is on the bright side here. This game is fantastic, and uh, let me tell you the story of this. So it's quite affordable. I think to this day you can get it on. I think you could still get it on Amazon. It's somewhere between 35 to 40 US dollars, and the game is pretty simple to learn. And there's something about the game loop that is so like snappy and good. Let me tell you the story of this. So, um, BB comes out one night, and I'm just like sitting at the table, and I'm just flipping these cards out. And what are you doing? I said, I can't stop playing this game. She said, what do you mean? I said, I can't stop playing this game. It's so good. I want to win so bad. I want to win with all the characters. And she's like, just, maybe, the whole thing she gives me, maybe we could have fun. You could do it more tomorrow, etc. Okay, fine. Um, but then I get home from work, and she's sitting there at the table just flipping it because she can't stop either, because the game is just that good. And it's simple. It's all about like you essentially, gosh, it's been a while actually, but you essentially have different weapons, and these different weapons that you have as well as the different characters determine like how much resources you want to spend on. Do you want to give do you want to attack? Do you want to save those up for a bigger attack? Do you want to heal, etc.? So pretty simple. This is like there's a travel phase, and then the combat phase. Because really, when you break down the game to what it is just you have to fight and defeat four monsters that you randomly draw, and they come in random order, and they get harder and harder as time goes on. And it's just has such it is so good at getting its hooks into you, because you'll it's one of these games where you'll have like a really really good first three monster fights, and then the fourth one you're just so ready. And at the same time there could be ones where you prepare like crap, and you're like, oh, this I'm gonna die pretty quick here, for whatever you randomly rolled up, and then you're just like, I'm gonna do it, I can't believe I'm gonna do it. So you have these resources, effort. There's different levels of effort, right? That are shown by like the more inflamed fist, your health, the health and shield of the monster, and then this time tracker. It comes with these dice. It also comes with this bag that looks. It just is a bag that feels like it should be under a couch. Doesn't it look like a bag you'll find when you go under your couch and is covered in your cat's hair? Anyways, that was a stretch goal. The dice is really nice, and it has a little token to track things. Nice big dice. And then yeah, all these old chits. The thing I was gonna say about this, and this is not me gloating, believe me, I know how it can be frustrating with Kickstarters, especially because recently been seeing so many instances of like backing a game and then seeing it in the store for a month before I get my copy and just being like, wow, I wish I would have just done that. And so, yeah, each of the different characters, Sage, the Sneak, there's different sages, different. So that would be like a rogue, huntress, brawler, different archetypes, and then the different weapons you can find, and uh, you can find different weapons along the way. You have different starter ones, and then just a basic tracking pad here with a bunch of different ones. So yeah, definitely a really, really fun game. And definitely just a clean, good play loop. So I'm looking forward to Artem's next game. And, hopefully that next game gets 26,000 comments that all say, great job. I loved it. Oh, and this is nice too. You can kind of like for the replayability, it has different achievements, like so that you could say defeat the game in all these different ways. Oh, that's right. There's also an easy, normal, hard setting as well. So, yet another game that I would say is definitely worth the price of entry. All right, so Cassette Dungeon. So this game is only $15. Yet another. This one's not on Kickstarter. Well, yeah, it was on Kickstarter. Just a reason to not do Kickstarter. Like if you need another reason not to do it, you could check out the Kickstarter for this one. As recent as 5 days ago, people on there being like, "I never got it," and it's pretty clear just kind of going through it and looking at the creators' responses that like this stuff is just getting lost in shipping, and he's just sending people other copies like on his own dime. It just I feel bad for everyone. I don't know what's actually happening there, but it's like just to see these brutal comments, but in a way it I understand it from that consumer perspective of like I backed you. Like and the Kickstarter system is not consumer friendly. It does not reward early backing. It does not give any investment. So already these people are like, I prepaid for this game, um, and created momentum for other people. And I waited and waited, and now just nothing. It's very frustrating. And then on the other hand, you have this guy who has the idea for the game and trusts different groups of people to here. Could you manufacture this? Could you ship this? And then it just gets lost, and so it's just a disaster. And what's the ultimate conclusion? The only proper way to sell games is set up a table at the front of your house and um and just stand there and sell as many as you can. All right. Yeah, so the game is in a cassette, which is clever and fun, and I think it anything like this adds an interesting design constraint where you could have a lot of creativity within that constraint. It doesn't work super well. Like it never fully closes. Whenever you turn it upside down, it just opens and spills out. So I usually have to put a rubber band around it. Um, there's just 4 dice, and it's essentially a dungeon crawl. It's described as a short solo game in which you travel through a dungeon and defeat the boss using the power of rock. And that's fine. I think there is a version of this game within these cards that is a game that is committed to itself, like follows through on the promise of being sort of a fun uh adventure, like classic dungeon adventure. The art's pretty unique, and then like there's stuff like this added in with, a protein shake, a heavy metal cassette, doomed underwear. And it's kind of like, all right. Because without these cards, it's so interesting. Without these cards, the game is pretty much like a serious dungeon crawler. And I get it. It's like it's a tape, it's the power of music, et cetera, et cetera. And I guess so then the feedback from me wouldn't be like, you get to include however you want. You get to make whatever game you want that matches your vision. I guess it's just like the tone of it without these cards right here. The tone, it's almost like a separate game. So yeah, as you go through it, you get different, you have different levels you can follow through. The different, they can come in different orders, and you have to defeat the big bad boss, and here's your life tracker. So yeah, about what you'd expect, comes in cassette form. Rules are online. I think there may be a sequel, mixtapes, but I don't know. That was early in the process. Said if things go well, and I don't know. I just think that there are so many creators that they go on Kickstarter and they see the model of how a Kickstarter should go, exemplified by one of these companies that shouldn't be using Kickstarter, and they go, "Oh, it'll just be like that." But it's like you have no idea the shipping and distribution and all of the different moving parts that companies that are multi-million dollar companies don't have to worry about. They have lots of levers to pull, but as an individual, you are just completely at the mercy of these greater powers. All right, next up. All right, so Cartographers by Jordy Aiden. This is Thunderworks Games, and this game is a map making game. And this game, like many others here, have taken to creating like an instruction guide that is interactive. And Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs has this as well. It is a fantastic system for learning a game because it's interactive. You get to like actually make decisions on there and actually play a little bit of the game, and it gives you feedback based on the choices that you have. I haven't played this game yet, but the premise of it looks great. It has lots of things that I enjoy. You get to create your own fantasy map, and essentially you're like traveling along, finding these different areas of land. But as you go along, obviously you have these fiends to contend with, goblin attacks and ambushes of all sorts of baddies. But it must do well because it does have a sequel that I think is called like Cartographer Heroes or something like that. I'm looking forward to it. I love map making games, and this is truly, I think, a strong essence of the roll and write genre here, which is not only are you playing an adventure, you're also like fitting it into this level of space. All right, now we move into the first of two games by Renegade Game Studios, which I would say is really the top dog right now in terms of these deck building, bag building games. And it is actually, I kept seeing it as Wraith of the Giants, but that would not make sense. It would be Wrath of the Giants because it's Wraith and the Giants. So you play a Wraith, which is a sort of a chosen one who these giants emerge from the deep dark every 60 years or something. And so there's this matrilineage of people who have to fight these different giants throughout time, but they come at different times in the lifespan of your Wraith. And what's cool about this, I think, is you just play one character, but depending on when the giant emerges, you play a different version of yourself. Because if the giant comes like early in your life, you play the youngest version of yourself. I love this little meeple here. And you have a lot of vitality, you have a lot of zeal, but you don't have a whole lot of experience, right? And then if you're older, your body is failing you, but you've done this lots of times now, right? And so you know all of the tricks and the strategies and how to do the most amount of work with the least amount of effort. And then sort of the adult is just the balance of those two. And what's cool about this game is there are different like decks of action cards based on the different life moment that your player character is in. And I have definitely a softness for any game that has even a sniffling whiff of Shadow of the Colossus, which is just one of the most beautiful games ever made. And this game really does scream that, because if you look at the giants, and there's 4 of them, the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, and ice, you could see that there's actually pathways to like move around the giant and do different attacks on different parts of the body. And they have different amount of wounds that it will take to fell them. The art is really cool. The giants are progressively more difficult. I will say that the base level of the game, I would treat that more as a tutorial and use the advanced version of the game as the base game, because that is the version that actually takes like moving around the giant into account. Before that, it's kind of abstracted and it just doesn't feel like that. But yeah, the boards are really handy here. They have you have your action rows and you're building this out, and then there are these different sort of bonuses that you can get as you sequence through the fight, right? You have these different opportunities, which the first Wraith does not have, because again, it's just basically this sort of like fearless fighter who just is ready to go, and I've been chosen to do this, etc. There's a sequel for this where there's actually twins that are the next generation of it. I haven't played it, or I don't have it, and so it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, Wraith and the Giants could be fun if you like deck building, and yeah, these tokens and this stuff doesn't even, these footholds, like getting the different footholds as part of the advanced game, doesn't come into it in the base game. So if you liked Shadow of the Colossus, or you just, I would say that this is a moderate difficulty solo game from them. The game that actually has the ad in here, I think I was told that if you are new to solo stuff, that this would be a good one to start with. I think it's called Proving Grounds. Yeah, I've never played this, but anyone who has, let us know in the comments. That apparently this is a whole solo hero series, and Proving Grounds is supposed to be a good one if you have not played any games like this before. All right, so Warp's Edge, and yes, I do have a version of this video where I did like unboxings for all of these, but given the amount of stuff that we have, I think just, you could trust me, I opened the cellophane with this. I just wanted to be able to take a look at the game beforehand just so that I can talk about it. And Warp's Edge was a game that occupies a weird space for me, in that I could have sworn that at some point somebody told me, you know, I've played a lot of solo games, but really none of them compare to Warp's Edge. I have that memory. Maybe. There's also a chance that they were talking about Twilight Inscription, which is like the roll and write version of Twilight Imperium, which is sort of a big miniatures-based game. Or they might have been talking about Aeon's Edge, or they might have been talking about something else completely. Or this conversation never happened. Either way, my expectations are extremely mixed, and I'll tell you why. Because I do think there is a chance that this is a game that I can really, really like. Because first of all, it reminds me of a game called Faster Than Light. If you've ever played a computer game like that, where you have to basically, you're just like a single ship taking on a fleet of these motherships. The motherships can deploy a bunch of smaller ships as part of their fleet, and your goal is to sort of take apart the mothership in time for like here's like these little explosions that you'd put on there. You have to take out the motherships in time before they, I don't know, blow up the planet or something like that. And actually, I don't know, how cool is that? I didn't even notice that. What, this just turns it. Those legs are huge. Look at the leg upper body proportions on that. Anyways, yeah, so there's motherships. I think there's 5 different ones. Woo, these are not staying together at all. Of different species, and the species are listed up here. And you have combat in a series of warps. These warps are the periods of time, because the general story of gameplay is that your ship, whichever one you decide will be, I think there's like 6 different options. Your ship has to went through the outer rim of the galaxy, and it was about to get blown up because it was all on its own, and then it enacted a protocol called the Savior Protocol, where it turned back time to right before you started the fight. And so essentially what I'm saying is it becomes a roguelike game where you're going to get defeated, and then as soon as you get defeated, you're getting zoinked back to the start of the day or whatever, the warp. And so in that sense, I like those. And FTL, that was a game that a type of game I really enjoy. If you haven't played that, it's very cheap. It has one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. In fact, so many YouTube videos have it, even though it is not public domain. I don't know if he's like I check every once in a while because I would absolutely love to put the FTL soundtrack on my videos. You will recognize it. I guarantee. If you watch enough YouTube, you will recognize FTL music. But more than just the music, the game is it's very simple. It's about crewing a ship and making these decisions, and essentially it's a dungeon crawl but with branching paths. But instead of a dungeon, you're choosing like which planets to go to in a solar system, and so there are higher risk, higher reward options, etc. And it's one of those games where you're like, this time I'm going to make every right move. And so you're making all the right moves, right? You're making all the right choices. No, I don't want to spend too much money on that. I'll be conservative, everything. But the game keeps growing in complexity, growing, so that by the end you're like, shoot, you're just trying to hang on, and it's really fun. And so you can see here are some of like each of the different motherships will have different attack ships that they go out. This is kind of funny. One of the upgrades is a bright red jacket. Was that to make them like a red shirt? Anyways, there's skills as well as I guess upgrades that you can get. And the idea, I hope the idea is, because this is what makes for a really good roguelike, is yes, you may die a bunch of times, but you are going to like gain something in between each death. And so I think what you gain in this game is like different maneuvers. Each ship has different tokens, and this is what is called a bag building game. And so the idea is you're trying to put together the best array of skills and attacks and everything so that you can survive through all the warps and take out these motherships. One of the best things here, first of all, is the price. I think it's like $35. But also, this system right here is, every game needs to have this if they have tokens. It is curved at the bottom so that you can like pull out all the tokens very easily. Clearly labeled. It's sort of the Monopoly Bank of the future. And I'm looking forward to this game. Am I that inspired by the art or anything like that? Not really, but it looks like it's made by a person, and that's great for me. Also of note is that there are 2 different ways to boot up the game, and I think this is fantastic. So there is the instruction manual, right, obviously, but then there's also a 28-page book written by Banana Chan, who does some other games. Have you ever heard of Forgery, I think it is? And it's a choose your own adventure. And so you can either go straight to the rule book and set up the game that way, or you can read through this, and depending on the decisions you make in this game, it will determine, or in this choose your own adventure book, it will determine your starting ship. So I think that's pretty cool, and a hell of a good deal, again, for $35, because honestly, most of these games, you really have to look at them as like pound for pound, like how much entertainment am I getting for the amount of money that I pay? And I have to be honest, my frame of reference is sort of tabletop role playing games. And I have paid $35 for a game, and then I, unwrap it and I read it and I'm like, oh, this game is just a collection of interesting ideas that this person put together. I don't even really think it's ever was ever intended to be used as a game. This is definitely used as a game and it's intended as such. And sometimes you just need that entertainment. So the one other solo hero series game that I really want to try by Renegade Studios is I cannot stand having that upside down. Um, what is it called? Let me look it up. Right, it's this Unstoppable, which is on pre-order right now, which is weird because it's in my FLGS, so I'm not sure what that's about. But there's also looks like that Proving Grounds, that starting one, is on sale for $22.75. And yeah, each of these have like a supplement. Warp's Edge has Anomaly for 25 that adds, new ships, new gameplay. Like I said, the Wraith and the Giants, New Dawn. There's Recklin Run, and where's the other one that looks pretty good? Okay, I made it up in my mind. So yeah, I guess it would be that Unstoppable would be the one that I want. That's a card crafting game, and look at that, it's even got a play mat for it. So good on you, Renegade Game Studios. Looks like some fun stuff here, and that's all I have to say. Moving on. Okay, Spire's End Rangitaki. Like I said, I did a video on this, and I remember now one of the issues of the video that I was a little too early in my channel to cop to at the time, but I can now. I guess I just didn't have the confidence. I have color blindness, and this game has a combination of colors that it uses that make it very, very difficult for me to see anything on the playing board. I think, I mean, obviously, I could just look at the video afterwards, but it's probably a yellow or gray and a brown or a green. Anyways, this game, I kickstarted it, and I did not know anything about uh, like Spire's End. But looking back, I'm glad that I started with Rangitaki. There's also Hildegard, and there's a new one coming out. But apparently, the consensus on the first Spire's End, which comes in sort of a box like much smaller than this one, is that it's got a great story, but its mechanics are a little iffy, and especially people feel like its dice rolls are very, very capricious or arbitrary. Arbitrary, like they just don't and there's not a lot of interactivity in the game. Like you'll make one choice instead of another, but it didn't matter. Like the choices will lead to the same place. That's a really hard thing to do in a card game. It's a hard thing to do in a computer game where you have a lot more than just however many cards. But I think Rangitaki is a cool game. It goes into this area that I didn't really. I didn't. How do I say this? All right, it has like a whole drink mixing part to it. I don't want to show too much of the game because the game unfolds in like certain order. It is a choose your own adventure game, and there's really interesting combat systems. This folds out to double the size, and so you're gonna move and have combat, and it's really elegant how it works. But you could even see on the top of the cards here, like this is card 193 for chapter 3, and it was really interesting seeing the creator of this game following it on the Kickstarter because yeah, Greg Favreau, is that who does Greg Favreau do like the Spire game? Spire full stop? No. So yeah, Spire's End Volume 2 is coming out, like the next iteration of the original Spire game in pre-orders begin in 12 days, 10 hours and 21 minutes from the time of filming. Rangitaki is on sale. Let's see what it's clocking in at these days here for the price. You can get it, $47. That's really good. 300 story cards, 6 D6s, 3 D20s, 1 D12, 40 discs, 20 marker cubes, game board, rule book. And there is like a player, yeah, there's a play mat for it. Um, which looks like just the playing board, but I guess a mat. And then there's a Salton Sea is a little expansion packet. But yeah, there was this whole thing, which was kind of fun idea of like a mini game within the game. But yeah, like here's an example. So it's like you got to make a Makana Mama, and you get different persuasion points, and so it was very, I thought it, as far as I am able to rate how much something honors a Pacific Island culture, I thought it was a really cool look into that, and it was very immersive into that extent. Um, I just it was really it was really hard for me to see it, and so I feel like I'm not able to give a very fair assessment of the game. But I'd say that any game that has 300 plus cards and is able to tell you how to play it in 17 pages, I think that's really cool. And the way that everything is there's a 2-player option. The way that everything's set up, where like whether it's a social interaction or a combat interaction, there's sort of things that you're playing the room, you're trying to strategize, is pretty hard. I remember the first time I played it, I like lost a couple times on some of the first combats, but $47. Jeez Louise, that's a great price. Definitely worth checking that out. Okay. So the last one before HeroQuest First Light is actually the one that I am most excited about, and I'm saving the most time for HeroQuest First Light because I've only opened it and looked at it, and I can tell it'll take a little bit more time, and there's some history to the game. So the one that I am blown away by is Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs. I passed up this game in my FLGS for so long, and finally I had one of these trips where I was like, just wanted a game, something to play, and I went in there being like, I am going to get a game I want. I'm not going to think about like, do I want to show it on the channel? I just want a game that. And finally, as I was leaving, I had nothing, and I was like, this game is $20. I should check it out. Let me just say this. I loved it so much that I actually bought the broken token organizer, like the wooden organizer system here with like a little drawer to hold the tokens and everything. This game nullifies like an entire video I did last week where I was like, how do you make a miniature war game? Because here's something that is gonna blow you away, if you haven't played this, is that this game, it has an entire 20 different levels, and the levels are this big, and your characters are this big. Okay? And each level, there are 20 levels. There are however many characters here. There are 6 different characters. There is so much strategy. There is so many options. Each level takes 30 to 45 minutes. And so you are buying a game for $20 that is going to be 20 times 30 to 45 minutes worth of time. It has an interactive like app to show you how to play. And I just couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it. So I'll give you a little bit of an overview of how this goes. Essentially, this is the scenario deck. And what you'll do is you will read in order, like what is happening here. So it starts with that shrinking feeling. The idea is that you're some sort of hero in Gloomhaven, and suddenly you're shrunken down to the size of buttons and bugs. And it then says play scenario 1, and you go to scenario 1 and you read up to the goal on each card. And if you successfully complete the goal, then you read what happens next. Then it tells you, okay, read this next thing. And then it will say, okay, take 2 of these tokens. Okay, advance your character to this level, etc. And based on that progression, you then see that you're taking each of these scenario cards as you like draw them out, they all have different items and like spells on the bottom. And so you're essentially like increasing the availability of stuff in the shop that you can buy and equip your player with. And the level setup, it will be okay. So, for instance, we have scenario deck 1, we go to a rude welcome, and then it says, okay, we have to defeat all the monsters. So we flip over the card, and this is the first combat. And so you enter the room here, right? And you'll put your character down, and then based on, so we'll say that the brute is a good like starting one. You could probably paint these. I mean, they're like plastic or resin, as you can see. I've been painting. Sorry. And then wherever it has numbers, you just look at those colors and you put them down. And then there are rules for movement and how the monsters are going to move. And essentially, if you are adjacent to them, you could do a melee attack, but then you also have other abilities, and then you have these tokens right here that you can get for different, these are like different effects. And this broken token thing is so cute. It has like a little hole in the bottom so that you can push up the tokens and get them, and it opens into this drawer. And this to me is just like the most fun thing here, is that you have like your enemies. That would be the enemy deck. And say that you are going to, let's see here. Yeah, I'm fighting a bandit guard. I have all of my information for this bandit guard on this card. I slot it right here. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm rolling what is fundamentally a, what is it called? Like a fudge dice or fate, where it's just a plus, a minus. Well, actually, because there's a 0 too. And you have, this is kind of like determines what attack the bandit guard will do, because you also have, this is a standard enemy. All right, stay with me. This is you. Okay. And as you, each time you take a turn, or the enemy takes a turn, you put this down by 1, and then you'll roll for them. And so we're on the second turn of combat here. I roll, and I rolled a plus, and that means whatever row they're on, I look under plus, and that is the modifier for their attack. And so you just look on the card, and it will say, like, based on what their initiative was, okay, they can move 2 and they can attack for 2. And so because I rolled a plus, that is 2 plus 2, and you would subtract my armor, and that's how much damage I would take. And I move my thing down, like for however much HP I've lost. The enemies each have their own HP tracker. And friends, that's the basic gist of the game, but we're just getting started, because every time that you start combat, you basically take whatever cards you have, and each of the heroes has different cards. And so say you have like a shield bash, you have 4 cards dealt out, you could choose 2 of them, and you use the top of one card and the bottom of another card. And so for instance, this one, I can defend 1 and attack 3, and then I can move 3. And then once I use the card, I flip them and get like a powered up version of that attack. But when I use that powered up version, I then have to discard it. And so otherwise it sweeps back into the rotation. And so you're always kind of saying, do I go for it here? Do I try to get rid of these guys, or do I wait because I don't want to use this really powerful attack? It was amazing, because if you look at, there's a card somewhere around here. Oh, I put it in the Learn to Play book that shows you just all the different icons. And just looking at these icons, you can see like how technical this game can get. It is a skirmish game. Now, I think that this does do something that is a solution that some people would say, Well, yes, you can of course make a skirmish game if you use hexes, because then you don't have to do measurements or anything like that. It's all hex based. And these other things here, like some of them are just straight up obstacles, you can't go through them, well, whereas other ones are things that you can go through but you lose HP, like little thumbtacks or stuff like that. But I think there are some, and you let me know if there's any wargamers out there that are pretty dedicated to the craft. Like from what I've heard just from people that I game with, they'll say, well, that's kind of a different thing. If you use hexes, it's a board game, it's not a skirmish game. And I'm down with that. I mean, people even say that about Warhammer Underworlds because it uses a hex map. But in as far as like what I'm looking to get out of that experience, it's really hard to say that like this is doesn't do it for me, because I mean it's just got so much of what you want, and then also your characters uh, everything that you need to set up for your character. These are the cards that are active. These are the cards that are that you lost, you can't use. Here are the items that you have between levels that you shopped for. These are the discards, and these are all the ability cards, and tells you the complexity in the top right. As your level goes up from 1 to 5, you increase the number of max hit points you get, but these chips on here will also give you conditions, and not all of them are bad. Sometimes you get like pumped up. And so really, really cool. And Gloomhaven or Cephalofair, if you're watching, please make some more of these. I think these are great. I think these, a lot of people who normally would not touch a hex based combat game like this would definitely take on something like this, because it's approachable from several different standpoints. It's approachable from a rule set. It's approachable from storage and like stuff, and it's approachable like it's kind of cute. I don't know, bugs and buttons. So yeah, that's Gloomhaven, buttons and bugs. All right, which brings us finally to HeroQuest First Light. So I again, first time I saw this, I did not pounce on it, and the reason for that is here's how my mind made sense of this. So, in case you're not aware, HeroQuest is this game currently published by Avalon Hill and Hasbro. Originally, I believe, let me actually look up the history. Here's what I want to say. Originally, Games Workshop. Was that ever correct? Yeah, it was actually, this is kind of interesting, a collaboration between Milton Bradley in the US and Games Workshop. So it was released in '89, and HeroQuest in and of itself is like weapons grade nostalgia for a certain time that anybody who was alive during that time doesn't need me to elaborate, because it was just fantasy was, it was this, it was exactly this. And so HeroQuest throughout my life is this game that has existed on a shelf, but it has always been out of my financial reach. As a kid, it's too much money. It would have been like a bicycle level birthday present. But sorry, there's no way I would have gotten this for my birthday, because it was like $100. So it'd have to be like a Christmas present. It was out of my league. It was like what were those little cars, Power Wheels. I just wasn't getting it. I just didn't have that kind of family. And then by the time I could afford it, it was like no longer a reasonable purchase, especially because the box was huge. And I think the new game was maybe $150, $200. They did release a like streamlined version of the box that's on sale now, I think for like $100. And that one has like 35 miniatures in it. And so when I saw this in like Target. Immediately I thought, oh yeah. Immediately I was like, oh cool, I'll get that. And then I was like, you know what this is? I bet you that this is just a very pared down version of the game to kind of wet people's whistle, because Games Workshop, which has really nothing to do with HeroQuest anymore, they do that a lot with their sets. They'll put out like a very well priced game called like Space Marine Adventures or something that's more palatable. An 8-year-old doesn't even really know what Warhammer is, but then they get that game, they play it, and they're like, wow, that was cool. I wish there was more. And they say, oh, well, there is. Do you know that you can ruin your life by just like painting miniatures because you need some huge flag that you're waiting on a certain paint to finish? And so I was like, I don't want this. I don't like, if I'm going to get HeroQuest, I want the whole game. But uh, I did eventually figure out, I forgot how, it must have been a review, that really First Light is is a complete game system. So it is streamlined in some ways, but it is a standalone game with 10 quests. And that's almost the same as like the core game. It's also compatible with the core game's expansions, so you could put expansions on it. The actual difference is that there's only 5 miniatures, and that everything else is now a cardboard standee. And I was like, oh my God, I don't care about that at all. Like, I love standees. And in fact, I don't need any more miniatures. And so once I heard that, I was immediately like, let's do it. Now, I know that the solo game of this is a little bit um, stunted. Is that the word? Uh, the game has always been unique in that it has a game master as one of the characters. Um, and in to me growing up, even though I never had it, it was Zargon. But apparently in the UK it was Morcar. And this is the person who is sort of, as they say in the book, like the one who knows the most about the game. And they are the ones who are deciding what's behind the doors. The doors here have been replaced with just cardboard doors. Who cares? There's even this like GM screen so that Zorgon could be behind that. And if you're playing solo, there is an app, or you could play with like multiple characters or multiple players. And like if nobody wants to be Zorgon, you could use the app as well. And I'm actually able to get the app up here. Um, I don't. The music is actually really good, but I'm trying to not get a copyright strike on this. I'm not sure what will strike me if I. Yeah, so we got to create our party here. So we can come back to that. And in fact, I'll probably explore this like with my playthrough a little bit more, but just to see how it will look. Yeah, so these are all the same barbarian. It's just like a different look for them. Um, and quests are more challenging if you're playing. Yes, I know. My new party, new party's good. And okay, so right here it's asking me which system do I have? Well, I have First Light, but I could select that, and then all of these are the expansions. And so I download the additional files for First Light. And by the way, this is not a computer app. The reason why it's very narrow like this is because it's only an iPhone or iOS app. So I'm kind of like, because I use my phone to film, so I'm using a janky version of it on Mac OS. So it gives you a little bit. So I'm just going to skip through the mentor's greeting here. I'm not sure if you could hear that. Let me turn it up a little bit just to get a.
He has tasked Sir Ragnar, the leader
Just
of the Knights of the
so like that kind of stuff. But I wanted to show you how it actually works. Is that the board here? You kind of have to like keep up with it, so to speak. Like you'll have the physical board here, and then you'll let the app know where. Geez, come on. So these are like my quests, all the ones that are active. Oh my goodness. Please. Please. Okay. All right. Okay. So I would move into, like if I moved here on the game board, I would then move here and it would tell me what happens next. So for my actions, uh, yeah, I could search, I guess So I used up my actions on searching secret doors. I didn't find anything. and I'm going to move 3 spaces, and it reveals more of the board. So now I know that there's a door over here, etc. Come on. Here's the other thing. Okay, so now that stairway is blocked behind me. The other thing is that, like, there's interactivity between the game board. I'm doing stuff on the game board, and then it's revealing things and telling me to put stuff on the game board as well. So essentially, I have 2 copies of the game board going. Could you just play it out on the computer? Sure, but like, why? You got an awesome board game here in front of you. So anyways, we can come back to that if and when I do a playthrough. Let me know if you'd like to see a playthrough of this, but I figure I'd just open it up and take a look and see what we have inside. This was $50. So I kind of figured that, like, not enough money to make me feel like I wasted it if I don't like it. And not enough money either to dissuade me from, like, if I really liked it, to also buy the core game. So let's take a look. And just kind of speaking about Kickstarters, by the way, in 2020, Hasbro bought the trademark, and then Avalon Hill, which is a branch of Hasbro, they kickstarted it, and they raised $1 million. So that should give you an idea just of how much people love this game. And this was the point, I think, the first point at which all Games Workshop branding and everything was removed from the game, because I think at one point it would still have, like, a Games Workshop logo. I don't even think it says anything at all about Games Workshop on here anymore. Yeah, nothing. Good. All right. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. No, let's see here. So we have our character sheet. Ugh. Okay. That's a little bit gross. Okay, so we have our quest book here. This is very nice. And yeah, one of the features on the front was that, it was on the cellophane. It said, includes a full dragon, which I think is pretty cool. So here be Zorgon's GM screen. It's basically just got references for everything, monster charts. Pretty cool. This always made it feel so cool, like you were playing. I always thought it was like a version of D&D when I was a little kid. My cousins had it, and it was one of those games where I was looking at it thinking, I'm just not old enough to play this game. I don't understand it, but it looks so cool. Yeah, so now everything, because in the core game, these would all be like molded miniatures. But now, hey, look, these are really nice standees. In fact, these are great. I'm really happy to have these for other games. Cool. Yeah, a lot of stuff's going to be handled with miniatures and tokens, and here's the doors. This looks like the game board, which probably fit. Yeah, if this is all that it is, I'll be able to fit it into this space. Great. With my... Oh, crap. No. Well, we'll see. There's another... It looks like there's a different board on the back. We can figure all that out. Oh, very nice. This is actually a really nice mold right here. Sorry, I just kind of screamed. Wow, that's a nice... it's a nice... Is that resin? Plastic? Nice mold. Very nice detail, dwarf. I love that. It's kind of like a quarterback being like, watch the cornerback, blitz, blitz, blitz. And then we have a mage, and then this looks like, yeah, like a elf rogue. Some cool dice. Oh, I love these dice. And we have our different cards, and we have our standees. Friends, $50? $50. I mean, just think about that for a second. Think about what you get in a starter box for an RPG for $50. You get a bunch of laminated sheets of paper. And just as I say that, I reveal just a fake cardboard nothing. Well, anyways, no. So yeah, this is about what I would expect right here. We have our minis, we have our standees, we have lots of cards and lots of options, and these cards are really what's going to make HeroQuest the special thing here, is that these are the way that we're going to reveal everything that happens on the board, and have the various like branching pathways that will give us the replayability. But yeah, treasure chests, doors, some open doors, some locked doors, enemies, rats. And these tables and stuff obviously also come into play in terms of like combat and things like that. These are all the tokens. I think that looks fantastic. And then you would put, I think, the exit somewhere. Here's a rule book. And like it said, it's compatible with all the expansions. And there are a lot of expansions. Like just if going to my game store yesterday, there was like six different ones. And apparently they're all compatible with this. Open this page to see what your play area should look like after you set up the game. Oh, that's huge. Whew. Crap. That's big. Wow. So that's probably... This is kind of a hard stop right... Well, I'll figure this out. Anyways, looks good to me. Let me know if you're interested in this. And we'll see how... If I'm going to play through like a couple games of it myself to see if I'll actually be able to play it on here. I'm really thinking I'm not going to be able to fit the game board. But I don't know. Maybe I could figure... At the very least, maybe I can do like a follow-up review or something like that. Or maybe some of the quests have a smaller surface, or maybe I could show a different part of the game board at a time. We'll see. But, I mean, then again, why go through all that when my Buttons and Bugs game takes up about 2 little squidges of space? Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's roll and write games that you like, if you're a HeroQuest fan. Let me know if you love meeples as much as me, such that you bought a box of 30 unique meeples. Yeah, thanks for coming. And I hope you have a great afternoon.